Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the development of Luffy's amazing powers. Now, Luffy has a technique that he has named Gears, where through the powers of his rubber fruit combined with his armament haki, he's able to transform himself into different forms, more suitable to be able to confront certain enemies. These new transformations completely change Luffy's fighting style, allowing him to defeat his opponents more easily, and through training with animals, Luffy was able to obtain these transformations. In Wano, Luffy is fighting against Kaido, and Kaido uses his dragon form to get the upper hand at different points during the fight. And we're wondering what would happen if Luffy managed to create a new transformation based on Kaido or Momonosuke's dragon. In today's video, we're going to talk about the next possible transformation that Luffy might get during his battle against Kaido, the Gear 5 Dragon Man. And we'll also discuss how Luffy could get this transformation and how it might work. If you're new to the channel, we really appreciate your help by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It really means a lot and motivates us to make new videos. But for now, let's get into the video. Now, Luffy's gears are very interesting transformations because they're able to make Luffy even stronger. But this power requires a lot of energy to maintain his transformations for a while. And these transformations also can wear his body down to the point where he can't transform again for a certain amount of time. And worse, he loses his ability to use haki. But with this transformation, Luffy was able to take down incredibly strong opponents such as Doflamingo and Katakuri. The quote-unquote gears technique was initially one that only made Luffy's body stronger based on pumping blood faster throughout his body, being able to use the unique rubber body he possesses in order to incredibly increase his basic attributes. But over time, this power has become a much more complete transformation technique, starting with the more basic ability to turn his hand or feet into giant ones to deliver a heavy blow to opponents or even buildings. Following the time skip, Luffy had completely revamped this technique, turning it into one capable of modifying his entire body, allowing him to achieve various forms that he could use anytime. With help from Rayleigh and the large forest animals that he trained with, Luffy was able to learn to use all three forms of his haki, and with help from the animals, he was able to learn to adapt his body to each animal's unique fighting style. Now, during the Dressrosa arc, Luffy demonstrated Gear 4 Bound Man transformation that made his body large, and this form gave Luffy incredible elasticity, allowing him to stretch almost infinitely. In this transformation, Luffy was able to redirect his punches as he wished without losing speed or even impact strength. Plus, he gained the ability to use a technique similar to Geppo, or the airwalk technique Rob Lucci had demonstrated back in Enies Lobby. Moving forward to the Whole Cake Island arc, Luffy demonstrated two new transformations of his gear technique. The first being a confrontation with Charlotte Cracker, Luffy demonstrated his Gear 4 Tank Man, and this made Luffy's belly incredibly large and was a much more defensive form. With armament haki covering a large part of his body, Luffy gained increased durability to his enemies' attacks, but limited his offensive capability since his arms and legs became much smaller compared to his body. The last transformation shown so far is Gear 4 Snakeman, and in this transformation, Luffy is much more streamlined than the other transformations and is much thinner and taller. While in his Snakeman form, Luffy gains incredible speed and mobility, being able to deliver lightning-fast blows to his opponents and attacks which could even keep up with Katakuri's future sight. Now, all these transformations have been a result of training with different animals during the time skip and also fighting different enemies. So it follows that if Luffy trained with other animals or other enemies, he might be able to acquire a new transformation that can adapt to any new fighting style. Throughout the Wano arc, Luffy has fought incessantly with Kaido, and because of Kaido's dragon transformations, Luffy has many opportunities to evolve even further. Now, during his various fights with Kaido, he's fought him in his normal, his hybrid, and even his full dragon form, and has learned Kaido's potential and possibly even his weaknesses because of the multiple encounters they've had. Through Kaido and Momonosuke, it's possible that Luffy could create a new transformation capable of damaging a dragon's large body, one in which he can adapt his attacks to defeat large creatures. Now, obviously in this transformation, Luffy wouldn't necessarily turn into a dragon or get much less as big as one, but rather this form would be a much more efficient form to defeat larger enemies such as dragons or giants or other fruit carriers that can increase their size. One might even be able to call this transformation Gear 5 Dragon Man, and in this form, Luffy would be able to defeat Kaido in his full dragon form, something that even Oden couldn't do. Now, since Kaido's body is so large and elongated in his dragon form, it's difficult to hit his vital points since they're so spread out. So Oden only managed to land one attack on Kaido, and it left a scar on his chest. In Gear 5 Dragon Man, Luffy could potentially hit Kaido's entire body in dragon form with several blows, and this would allow Luffy to hit Kaido's vital points much more easily. Now, this wouldn't only give him a possible advantage against Kaido, but it would also facilitate combat against much larger larger characters like the Giants of Elbaf, or other Zoan fruit users that can transform into incredibly large animals or even beings. As we've seen in Gear 4, each transformation is focused on a different combat style. Bound Man is much more offensive and useful against tough enemies, as it gives Luffy the ability to deliver fast and heavy blows to his opponent. The speed and power allow him to land punches across long distances without losing power along the way, and his mobility is much higher compared to his base form. Luffy's mobility is also increased due to his elasticity, and in this form causing him to bounce between solid surfaces, and again granting him that Geppo-like technique or airwalk. In his Tankman transformation, Luffy can withstand incredibly powerful attacks, feeling only a little of the impact. The drawback to this form, though, is that it's not really effective against swords, as Luffy can be easily cut by them, but against blunt weapons or just basic attacks, this form is incredibly effective, as it allows Luffy to literally tank attacks with his inflated belly coated with haki and hurl his enemies away. Lastly, the Snakeman form is Luffy's fastest form, and with its attacks capable of easily hitting an enemy, with the added bonus that he can also redirect his attacks in even more ways than Bound Man. Snakeman's flexibility also allows Luffy to move his arms with incredible speed, and in this form, Luffy even managed to hit Katakuri. But like the other transformations, there's always a trade-off. While in this form, Luffy's punches are not as strong, so even if it reaches a higher speed, he simply cannot match the power of his Bound Man transformation, and possibly even his base form. Now, the main weaknesses of all these techniques are the wear and tear they place on Luffy's body. Currently, Luffy has a time limit for how long he can remain in Gear 4, and the most extreme effect is the overuse of this technique may even decrease his lifespan. And this is why we usually see Luffy start in his base form at the beginning of a fight to gauge his opponent's power level. Once Luffy realizes he can't beat his opponent, he then transforms into some form of his Gear 4 to be able to beat his opponent. But because of the time limit, Gear 4 is Luffy's last option during a fight. For once his time limit runs out, Luffy must rest 10 minutes and cannot even use haki or even move in most cases because his body is completely exhausted. With a possible Gear 5 Dragon Man transformation, Luffy might be able to defeat larger opponents, but his overall attack speed could be slower because his strikes would have to be giant in order to attack those opponents. So Luffy would trade his speed and mobility in exchange for large, heavy punches that can knock out his opponents and defeat them. But it's obvious that for Luffy to be able to use this form to its fullest, Kaido would need to be in his dragon form. You see, because of the large size, it would be ineffective against smaller opponents, and even though his improved punches would be exceptionally powerful in this transformation, he'd be much slower, allowing Kaido to outmaneuver him. But in his dragon form, Kaido would not be able to dodge Luffy's blows while in Gear 5 Dragon Man, so Luffy would be able to dish out the punishment, leading Kaido to a defeat. But there's also the possibility that Luffy reveals this transformation later in the story, because currently, he and Kaido are nearing exhaustion in their fight, and neither of them really could probably stay transformed for much longer. So with what he's been learning throughout his fights with Kaido and training with Momonosuke in his new dragon form, Luffy could learn to use this new gear. Another thing to consider is that this form would come in quite handy when they go to Elbaf, the realm of the giants, and this is the most probable destination after Wano. In Elbaf, there are likely to be strong and very large enemies, which could pose a problem for the Straw Hats. It's also worth remembering that his gears also use haki, and now that Luffy has learned to use Advanced Conqueror's haki, he may be able to fight Kaido with that alone. This means that Gear Dragon Man could include new haki, and Luffy could call himself Dragon Man because he learned it while fighting Kaido. But for now, I want to know what you think about it. Could Luffy get a new transformation in order to defeat opponents much bigger than him? What other transformations do you think he'll show us in the future through his gears? And if Luffy were to transform into Gear 5 Dragon Man, what do you think that form would take? Leave your opinions in the comments below. As we conclude our video, we'd like to thank you so much for watching all the way into the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you've made it this far, give us a like or a subscribe as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.